Okay, so the next part we're doing here, we're starting with our skills, sketch a graph from the equation in standard or general form. All right, so I need to talk about that a little bit with you. So standard form or general form, it can be called either of those things, is capital AX plus capital BY equals C. Okay, this is just y equals mx plus b rearranged with a few extra rules. Okay, so the slope of a line in this form is actually equal to negative a over b, where a is the coefficient in front of your x and b is your coefficient in front of your y. Okay, a couple rules for this form is only integers for a, b, and c. No fractions, for example. And the other rule is that a must be positive. All right, so those are our rules. Whoops, those are our notes. Okay. All right, so I'm going to look at this one for us. So we could graph this guy based on that we know the slope. And then we could plug in a point, find another point, or we could figure out what would the y-intercept be in this form as well. Okay, so, or we could rearrange. We could rearrange this into y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to do it that way for now. Okay, so 3y, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. And now I'm going to divide by 3. So I have negative 5 over 3 minus 6 over 3, which can be simplified to negative 5 over 3x, subtract 2. All right, so we can graph this. Negative 2 is the y-intercept. The slope is negative 5, 3. Okay, when we're thinking about that, we could, so negative 5 over 3. The proper place for that negative sign is in front of the fraction bar. But if we're thinking about delta y and delta x, we could either go down 5 to the right 3, or we could go up 5 to the left 3. Just talking about those slope values, remember. So let's go up 5, because we have space for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the left, 1, 2, 3. And we can graph that guy. All right, so let's notice back here in standard form, this function was 5x plus 3y equals negative 6. So we could say the slope is negative a over b, so 5 over 3, which is the same slope we had up here when we changed it around. Okay, now also we can figure out right now, and this will be true for every time in standard form, we can actually figure out what the y-intercept is equal to in standard form. We figured out over here it's equal to negative 6. So if we're using our a, b's, and c's, that's going to be our c value divided by our b value. And if we did that, we'd have negative 6 over 3 for a negative 2. And that's going to be true. Okay, so y-intercept is actually c over b in this form, and the slope is negative a over b. But we'll not ask you to do either this method or this method. You'll get to choose which method you like to use. So just knowing both of those things, both those ways is helpful. All right, so next skill for linear functions is knowing how to graph horizontal lines and vertical lines. All right, so here we have a horizontal line. Okay, I'm going to yeah, I guess I'll just do this example. So this line goes through the y-axis at 1, and its slope is 0 if we think about slope. So y equals mx plus b. Y equals, the slope is 0, so 0x, and the y-intercept is 1. So therefore, when we simplify this, we get y equals 1, and y equals 1 is the equation of this line. And this works for horizontal lines because it has a 0 slope. But when we go over here to vertical lines, the slope of a vertical line is undefined. And why is it undefined? Well, let's take 2 points off of here, say this point, and let's calculate the slope using that formula that we know, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or delta y over delta x. We can even just count, can't we? So delta y is down 2 in this case, and delta x is 0, and we cannot divide by 0. Therefore, this is undefined. All right, so vertical lines are represented in a very special way where we just say x equals wherever it crosses the x-axis. And the reason for that is because the slope is undefined, and x, the x-coordinate, everywhere on this line, no matter where we look, will be 1. Similarly, over here, the y-coordinates, everywhere we look on that line, will be 1. Okay, so that's why it's y equals 1. X coordinates everywhere here are 1. That's why it's x equals 1. Okay, now for slanted lines or diagonal lines in either direction, we can start with y equals mx plus b. We can see on this graph very easily where the y-intercept is, so that's 2. And we can count our slope, our delta y. I could go down -1 and over -1. Okay, so I could count that. Slope is -1 over -1, which is 1. So 1x. I will not leave it like this, though. I need to simplify. So y equals x plus 2 would be the equation of this line. All right. 34. Rearrange from standard form to slope-intercept form. Okay, actually, I think we had kind of already did an example of that when I showed you how to change it. Let's do another one here. 2x plus 3y equals -7. Okay, so rearranging 3y, subtract 2x from both sides, and divide by 3. Okay, so this way we can see the slope and we can see the y-intercept, see the slope and see the y-intercept. All right, next skill 41-42. Determine the equation in slope-intercept form given the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, so slope-intercept form, whoops, that one I'm going to leave for you to do. I'm going to do this one over here. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. The slope they told us is -9/5, and the y-intercept is -4. So that means adding a -4. So simplify that, and you can just go directly to this if you wish. That would be the equation. 43-44. Determine the equation in standard form given the slope and y-intercept. Okay. Standard form given the slope and y-intercept. All right. Now, I find this easiest to put in y equals mx plus b form first, so slope-intercept form, and then rearrange it. So slope is 1/2, y-intercept is -1. Okay. So standard form is ax plus by equals c. Oh, my dog is whining because it's time for his supper. Sorry, I can't say the word or he'll start whining even louder. Okay, so we need to put it in this form. So we need to have all our x's on this side. Let's subtract 1/2 x from both sides. Keep the y over here because we want it there. And then our constant number stays on this side. Okay, now remember our rules. We cannot have a negative sign as our a value. Okay, so we're going to multiply through by -1 on everything, which changes that 1/2 x subtract y equals a +1. The other rule is no fractions for a, b, or c. All right, so how do we get rid of that fraction? We're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 2 because 2 is the multiplicative inverse of 1/2. So when we multiply this by 2, okay, so we multiplied everything here by -1 on both sides. And now we're going to multiply all of this by 2 to get rid of that fraction, the 1/2. So 2 times 1/2 x is x. 2 times -y is subtract 2y. 2 times 1 is 2. And there we have it in standard form. All right, I think I need to stop and create one more video because I'm at 11 minutes.